And welcome back to Devlog. In the last part, mechanics, and in this part, level design. The main design of the Meteor Madness level is space. It's the only level in Pep-Pel that does not have some odd mashup with its design. Setting, it is just space, and I wanted to make space look visually interesting. Personally, I am always a big fan of space levels in games, because space cool. I am also a big fan of whenever space is designed in a very colourful or whimsical way, so I made my space level very colourful, maybe too colourful, maybe I went a bit overboard, but I am a big fan of how colourful and bright and shiny the space level in Pep-Pellington looks. Realistically, the actual design visually for the space level is a lot more simplistic than every other level. Every other level is very complicated, while the space level, realistically, is just the meteor tile set, the spike tile set, the portals, black holes, and then the visuals for actually accents on the space level, so the space flowers and the space rocks that go in front of those. Aside from those, the visual design of the space level is very simplistic. Remember the trash trail? Remember all of those highly detailed trees I drew? Pep-Pel doesn't have that anymore. It's rocks and flowers. The complementary of the space visual design is more so that the background of the space level should be intensely more detailed and colourful, while the foreground is a bit more simplistic. So the background for the space level is a more complicated background scrolling texture for the space level. Realistically, it's a bunch of fog, it's some other layered fog, it's little stars in the sky, and then there's very much larger stars in the sky. Because space backgrounds, you just make a bunch of stars, and you make them visually very interesting. Originally, I was making these star backgrounds a lot smaller, but that looked too disorienting with them moving around as you played, so I made them a bit larger, and by a bit I mean a lot, and significantly more detailed. These are more eye-catching and interesting, and also don't make the background too distracting when you are running past it. Onto the level design itself, it's a hard level. It's a real hard level. This is the final actual level of Pep-Pel. It is the final level before the optional levels of Pep-Pel, this being the remix mode, and then the hard mode variations of every single level so far. Because of this, it's pretty tricky, it's pretty tough, it's pretty tricky. The hardest part of making this level was in fact making sections of the level and then testing them to make sure they were possible, because it is creating sections of the level where they would maybe take 30 attempts for me during testing to even be able to do consistently, and then having to adapt this to be able to have players regularly play the levels. The game is officially real hard. That being said, I think the design of the Meteor Madness level is very fun because it is hard. I'm a big fan of difficulty in video games. I like my video games hard and I like my emotions sad. So the level being difficult is actually very appealing. Part of me is a little bit sad that this is the last level of Pep-Pel, because it is the level that most people are not going to play, because most people won't reach the end of the game, just statistically speaking. Not every person is going to play this level of Pep-Pel, because you have to play a bunch of preceding levels to unlock it, and some people may not play throughout the entire game. So this being the last level is a little bit upsetting to me, but realistically, if I made this reworked and made it an earlier level, nobody will play any other levels because this level is too hard, too fast. And also, I do like that this is a pretty fun and satisfying level, at least for me, because that means that the final level of Pep-Pel is a really fun one, and I enjoy that. Next I have the mechanics of the level. I have talked about all of these individually, but I will talk about them again right now, because it's funny. The mechanics of the level are the portals, the black holes, the white holes, and the shadow Pep-Pels that follow you around. All of these are space-themed somehow. Portals are a physics thing, and that's like space, right? Black holes and white holes are in space, and I'm pretty sure at least one of those is an actual thing. And the shadow Pep-Pels that follow you look sparkly and like space. Now that I am talking about all of these, I realize that only one of these mechanics is actually space-themed, but the other two look kind of spacey, so they can just be in this level also as well. I think all the mechanics, despite being kind of disjointed seeming initially, do work well together in theming and making sense. Usually when I have mechanics for levels, I will try to make all of them somewhat thematically similar, such as the ropes and the rope sign in the Trash Trail levels. They're very acrobatic based. The mechanics in the Meteor Madness level I feel like are similar enough because the portals have an influence on your momentum. The black holes and white holes also have an influence on your momentum in that how you interact with these, so I feel like these mechanics are similar enough, at least thematically in how they work. And then the shadow Pep-Pels are something that follow your pathing, so you have to maintain your pathing in a specific way when moving in the Meteor Madness level, which can be difficult when going through the portals. So going through a portal in a specific way may end up making a hazard for yourself in the future that you will have to dodge past in the way of the shadow clone mechanic. So all the mechanics actually go pretty organized together in a way that makes the level very interesting for me. Next we have a bunch of rework of things that I wanted for this level and then didn't work very well. The first is that I wanted an approaching planet in the background of this level because the story of Pep-Pel ends with her crashing a meteor into the planet, killing millions. The meteor is what the level is on, so as you progress through the level, there was going to be a planet that appeared in the background and then you would rush further towards it and then a fiery effect would pulse as you get very close to the planet, and some of you may have realized why I did not include this mechanic, because including a giant planet that took up the entire screen and pulsed and flashed is maybe not a good idea for 50% of a level. Maybe it's a bit distracting, maybe it could kill people who aren't good with flashing lights. Maybe I should have thought that through a little bit before I planned the mechanic. Oops. I still had the visual animation for this, so my rework of this design feature is just going to be including it at the end of a level as a sort of ending level cutscene where the planet comes into view, you go towards it, it flashes, it gets very close, but it's not to the intensity where it will fill the screen, and it's not to the intensity where it could kill a person. Next I had the rework of the shadow clone mechanic. Originally, if you watched the previous devlog, the shadow clones would exist in a way where they were tied to the level chunks, and this would mean that they would have their own specific chunk that the player would never be able to select and enter into, but the chunk would exist and have it available for the shadow clone. So when entering into an area that had a shadow clone, this chunk would be set as an adjacent chunk and be set to active. I was too afraid that this way of setting up the shadow clones would cause my game to have some level of major flaw, so I just removed it and made the shadow clones manually turn themselves on and off based on what chunks of the level are active. For example, they all have a list of active chunks that they will exist within. If none of these active chunks are enabled in the level, they will simply turn themselves off, and the way they do this is by breaking the shadow clone mechanic and just waiting for the player to enter into a chunk or have the chunk set active that they can exist within, and then they will create the mechanic anew. To do this, I had to actually add the logic for the shadow clones to be able to be destroyed, and this is very simple. I was testing out Pep-Pellington and I realized that maybe I had forgotten about the potion mechanic of Pep-Pel. There's a whole surface button on a joystick dedicated to it, where Pep-Pel can throw funny potions at metal objects to break them. I didn't use this mechanic for a very long time in designing for Pep-Pel, and maybe it's because I forgot about it, or maybe it's because I was planning to use this as a dramatic feature in the final level of Pep-Pel, where Pep-Pel can throw potions at her shadow forms, defeating them temporarily. When being chased by a shadow clone, Pep-Pel can throw a potion at it, and this will break it temporarily. This will reset its timer and have it recreate itself after its timer has ticked down once again. So Pep-Pel does have the option of delaying or stopping the shadow clones following her by throwing a funny potion at their brains. While this is a design feature I added retroactively once I had already finished the actual design of the level, I think it works pretty well. It works with the mechanics of the game where Pep-Pel can use her strong potions to destroy a very hazardous enemy, and it also works in the mechanics of the shadow clone. If you're being overwhelmed by them, you do have the option of breaking them, but it does also slow your momentum using the potions, and it's going to slow down your gameplay a lot. A talented gamer will just deal with these shadow clones. A other gamer may just want to destroy them with Pep-Pel's funny potion mechanic. Finally, we have the ending of the level mechanic. This is pretty different than the regular level mechanic ending, these being that you break the funny mimic chests, and then Pep-Pel do a funny thumb up, and then you finish the level normally. As stated at the end of the Meteor Madness level, Pep-Pel causes a doomsday-style scenario, killing billions. Because of this, I have to add a actual cutscene of the meteor crashing into a planet, or at least a planet appearing, giving the impression of Pep-Pel destroying the world, which then can lead way to a cutscene that I will add after the fact. Because of this, I have to have some unique ending level mechanics. First of all, the chest that Pep-Pel would regularly break is already broken, so all I have to do is add a system where instead of breaking the chest, all Pep-Pel has to do is walk close to it, at which point she will sit down in front of it, and I will trigger the animation for the planet appearing. The planet will then appear, come into sight, blow up or something, I don't know, and then the level will end like normal, which I find to be quite funny. I think the juxtaposition of Pep-Pel peacefully sitting down as the meteor she is riding crashes into Earth, killing trillions, and then her funny UI sprite pops up and says, "You did it, good job, level end," is pretty funny. So that is what I'm going with for the canonical ending of Pep-Pellington. Have you all been spoiled on my game because you've watched all these devlogs? Absolutely. Please buy my game. Please buy my game. And that is it for Devlog. I feel like Pep-Pel is at the point where I originally wanted it for the initial design of Pep-Pel being a very, very hard platformer that is also momentum based. I'm a big fan of how the level actually works with momentum and physics and is pretty fun overall. The visuals are really neat. I think Pep-Pel is pretty fun. I'm very big proud of Pep-Pel now. She has come so far. She's 1 year old and I ruffle her hair every morning because I love her so. As stated with every level aside from the Flying Factory, as soon as I finish the level, it is my favourite level. I adore the Meteor Madness level. It's a real good time. It's a very fun level and very enjoyable for the experience of Pep-Pel, I feel. As stated, it does feel unfortunate that the player has to actually unlock this level to play it, but such is the way of video games. You can't just play the last level and that's it. Even still, I'm very, very happy with how the level turned out, and at this point, how Pep-Pel is basically finished. Huh. What am I gonna do with my life now? Devlog over, I guess?